one of the things, the last episode I did, I titled, "The Gods Are Coming Back." And I did that. I'm trying to be a little provocative. Why not? People need to wake up. There's a lot going on. As I have always said, we're not in Kansas, and we have never been in Kansas. And we are about to go into the twilight zone. So I wanted to pick up on emphasize a few more things that I was beginning to unpack in the last episode. But I guess I have a little bit of a, I guess the word exhortation I want to get off my chest first before I get more into the meat of the word. But, Yeshua made a claim, or he made a statement, and he was talking to his followers, and he said, is it not written? And what he means is it not quoted in your Old Testament, in your writings? As he said, my Father's house shall be called a house of prayer, and you have made it a den of robbers. This is a very famous scene where he goes into the temple and he's completely disturbed. It's just really a money-changing house. People are buying and selling. Let me put it this way. The holy relationship that can be had for free to anyone who wants to come. He says, come to me, and you can have free living waters as much as you want, had become a place where, buying indulgences, selling, how do I explain this? In the temple they had all these different rituals, and it had been so denigrated and ritualized, and it was just, pay your 2 pence and you can get, absolved from all these quote-unquote sins that you have been doing. It had nothing to do with a pure heart and a right mind in relationship with the Creator God. And he was quite upset. This was his Father's house, which shall be a house of prayer for all nations. And what I want to unpack a little bit what that means. He's quoting in Isaiah 56:7. And it says here, Isaiah, the prophet, is talking about what the Lord says, to maintain justice and do what is right. And if you do that, my salvation will be close at hand, and my righteousness will soon be revealed. Blessed is the man who does this, the man who holds it fast, who keeps my Sabbath without desecrating it, and keeps his hand from doing evil. That's a very common thing in the whole, all the writings. Choose you this day who you serve. Are you going to choose to serve evil, or are you going to serve good? Are you going to do what is right, or are you going to, go to the dark side and do wicked and despicable things in the eyes of the Lord? It's always a choice like that. But he said that my house, he said, I will give them joy in my house of prayer. I will bring them to my holy mountain, those who love truth, who love salvation, who maintain justice and do what is right. And he said, for my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations. The sovereign Lord declares, he who gathers the exile of Israel, I will gather still others to them besides those already gathered. And that's a huge mystery right there. I've taught a lot about the two houses of Israel and the ingathering, mainly of the house of Joseph, the scattered seed, the northern kingdom that was scattered as just seed to the nations, and it was intermingled, and we are today a mixed and mingled world population. That was not always the case. In the very beginning, after Noah, especially when the world was repopulated, for many centuries, many centuries, people had sort of a sense or an understanding of their bloodlines, of kind of where their root systems, what seed, what offspring. Because when you use the word seed, they're always talking about the offspring. Male and female come together, have an offspring, and that gets planted in the ground, meaning that whole group, that clan, that tribe, that people, that nation, as it continues to grow and morph, comes from a root system. But I want to go back now into Matthew because there's something really important that I think we've lost in this whole crazy world we live in today. A lot of people know something's wrong. I mean, I talk to people all the time who basically are, and they're just like, what's going on? That's the biggest phrase people use, like, what's going on? The world is going crazy. Well, yeah, it is. And for very good reasons, and the prophets had a lot of information about this. But this is one of the things that has been lost that really needs to be regained. And I'm kind of adamant about this. But it says, when you pray, this whole concept of prayer, the more and deeper I study, and if you're just new to this understanding, I study deep, I study broad, and I study on an esoteric level. Now, what I mean, I read source documents, the original texts. I read broadly, so I read way outside of the quote-unquote 66 books of the evangelical canon. I read deeply into church fathers, apocryphal literature, the Deuterocanicals, but then I read even into ancient historians, into the Platonists. What are they saying? What are other people, what are all these other cultures saying? So that's why I say reading broadly and reading deeply all the way down into the mystical level, the hidden level, the sod level, the encrypted level in the scriptures, because it is all there. All, in the pursuit of truth, which is what God says, come to me. He says, I got hidden chambers. I got a lot of stuff that is not necessarily available at surface level. You can go as deep with God, with Yahweh, as you want. But in terms of prayer, there's a very important, I think, understanding about prayer that we need to regain, and I want to emphasize it just for a minute. It says, when you pray, you're not to be like the hypocrites. This is out of Matthew 6. This is a very, again, well-known to many people passage of Scripture. When you pray, you're not to be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and on the street corners that they may be seen by men. But truly I say to you, they will have their reward in full. But he says, when you go, oh dear, I didn't just lose this. I'm on my tablet here. But when you go, oh dear, do not pray like the, here, hold on a second. Do not pray like the hypocrites, okay? The thing about a hypocrite is, and just let me give you this, I know they always relate it to actors and everything, and probably in a sense rightly so, but a hypocrite basically, and it comes from a root word, here, let me just find it here, is really, it's a two-faced person. A hypocrite is someone whose profession does not match their practice. A hypocrite is basically someone who says one thing but does another. So it isn't so much that the actor, what they're saying is, and this is so true of actors today, I mean, they play characters. Oh, they play, these innocent and pure-hearted and these great characters. And meanwhile, in their personal life, they're about as lascivious and crazy and off the wall and sexually amoral as you can get. They don't, what they profess out on a stage is not really a lot of times anything like what they're living, back when the camera's not on them. The hypocrite is someone who talks the talk but doesn't walk the walk. That is a very serious thing with Yahweh. That's why he said don't be lukewarm. He'd rather you be either hot or cold. I mean, cold he can handle it a lot, much better than the hypocrite, the person who wants to just look religious, look good on the outside, just kind of make everybody think they got it together, but behind the scenes, they're living a whole different standard. Okay. So that being said, but he says, when you pray, you go to your inner room, close your door, and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Okay, this is a very mystical verse. In other words, there's a very much deeper understanding here, because people are always trying to figure, well, the inner room, what does he mean? A prayer room? We go in your closet. Okay. In other words, it's a personal relationship. Your house, okay, my body is my tabernacle, is my house, is my temple, it's mine. I got a whole inner life that goes on inside of me, okay, that you would never know on the outside. There's no, praise the Lord, there's no big screen up there that's telling you all my thoughts, so anybody can read it. It's very much hidden. It is your secret hidden room. And that's the relationship the Father wants to have with you. He wants it to be very personal. It's just a lot of times between you and him. He sees whatever you do openly, he sees. So it doesn't matter. He knows everything. He knows all your inner thoughts. He knows all your actions. He knows it all. But what he wants you to do is to be alone. In other words, you don't rely. It isn't like, okay, so if you need to have, you've really kind of done something that probably wasn't in your best interest or anybody else's, and you need to get it, talk to the Father about it. You don't need to go to a priest. This is where, there's nothing wrong to confess your sins to men. In other words, to try to have a counselor, somebody, to come clean with someone. Say, that's a good principle, and that's great. You shouldn't institutionalize it. That's my opinion. That's part of the problem with all these things. But he's very much into, and you can have it anyone, anywhere, any age, any time, or any place. You're in a room. I can be in a room full of 1 million people, and I can still be quietly communing with the Lord on the inside. This is your inner room. Okay, so I hope I'm making my point. This is what he's referring. Close your door and pray to your Father who is in secret. It says no man has seen God at any time. God is spirit. He's just, but he's there. See, the greatest. This is what the ancients understood. The one thing we don't understand: the more urethral or area, or the more the less actual material substance something has, usually the greater its power and its abilities. Okay, and that goes into the spiritual hierarchy, which I'll get to in a minute. Okay, and when you are praying, do not use meaningless repetition as the Gentiles do, for they suppose that they will be heard for their many words. And that is always kind of screwed. But what it really is referring to is there was a practice in the ancient, it still is practiced today, and actually it's coming back front and center, this whole idea of mantras when you meditate. So this is what I want to say really quickly, because he says, and when you pray, do not use meaningless repetition as the Gentiles. So do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need even before you ask him. All he's interested in, because he can get to you. This is the point. Our Father is so, and when I use the word subtle, I'm using it like in the sense of an essence. He can get through, believe me, any thought, any attitude, any lie, any deception, any hardness, any pride, anything on your end that would keep you from be able to hear him. He actually is so subtle and pure as an essence, he can get through that. That is the greatest thing about God. He can get through if you will give him a chance, if you will just sort of humble yourself and kind of get in a zone where it's you and the Father, and believing that you have a Father, Creator, God who does love you. This is the whole testimony. And he made you for purposes that are great and noble and pure. He can get to you, and he can straighten it out. And the whole point of prayer is he wants to straighten it out. The whole history of the world and the history of religion is, yes, there are other ways to get lesser gods to help you either do your dirty work, or quote unquote you can find some quote unquote absolution with. Okay, that is not the house of prayer that the Father has. He wants each person individually to come to him, to commune with him, and a one-on-one thing. Now, there's nothing wrong with counselors and getting, different things. But ultimately, you're going to be responsible before God. It's you and God, and that's it, okay? You can't play the blame game, or, my parents were terrible, or, whatever. I grew up in a really rough neighborhood, or whatever, okay? So anyways, this mantra thing, though, I just have to touch on this. Now, where did I have this here? Because a mantra is a very interesting thing that was going on in the ancient world. This is the whole idea. Where did I have? Oh, here, mantras. Unlike Eastern meditations, most style of Christian meditations, see, then I have to again stress this, because it's so important today, people, because I call upon every Christian, you have to. Well, you have to. I mean, I'm not your boss. It's not my job. But I'm telling you that what the Word is exhorting you to do quite strongly many times. You need to get your head in the Word. To meditate biblically is diametrically opposed to doing a mantra, which is a practice, a ritualistic practice, very much practiced in pagan cultures and pagan religions, and is coming back in many new, there's nothing new under the sun. A rose is still a rose, even if you give it another name. So, but the meaningless repetition, and some people just, it just irritates me. They don't ever do their homework, so they don't really ever know what they're talking about. But a mantra is an interesting, mantras are religious thoughts, prayers, sacred utterances, but also believed to be a spell or a weapon of supernatural power. Okay, mantras are a combination. They're kind of, a lot of times they're mathematical quadrants. They're very they can get you into an altered state of consciousness. They have perfected them in many ways, and you just use. And for your vain babbling. In other words, you will just recite over and over and over again a mantra, the whole Om thing, to kind of, to alter your mental state, okay, of awareness. Now, it is many times, it is based on codified esoteric traditions in the mystery schools. So there is a whole dark side to it, as it talks about here, as a spell or weapon of supernatural power. Many times in satanic ritual, in witchcraft and these kind of things, mantras are very big, okay? Because there is a place where it is an opening. It creates a doorway, an opening into another realm, okay? Now, all that being said, we don't mantra when Yeshua says uttering of many words, but he does uphold the idea of meditation. Meditation, and this is this is why we're losing the war. Listen, I just closed, and I can say this now, a Christian bookstore, which the Lord God bless my husband and I to be in ministry together in this store, and we just met some of the most wonderful people of God, and we were able to minister across the board, cross-denominational board, to just wonderful saints, seekers. My husband should write a book, because there are so many beautiful things that went on, and many trials and tribulations, okay? But the point is, there is a problem in Christendom, and I know this for a fact. The smooth gospel is really all that gets to most people today. You cannot, a word that brings conviction is very hard to sell. Your best life now is not a biblical concept, okay? Our reward is not in this life, okay? But anyways, back to the point here. Meditation is something that God requires of his saints, okay? When Paul talks about to be a workman of the word, a man approved of God, this is what it means to be, to meditate on the Lord's words, okay? It is, and now I got to find my spot here for this meditation, that the purpose, okay, it has these terms, even the Latin terms, it got kind of codified a little bit, to read, ponder, pray, and contemplate. Now, when I said in the beginning that I read deeply, this is a meditative, and I say Hebraic, and it isn't just Hebraic, because, let me put it this way, the Neoplatonists and many other schools of philosophy, and I don't want to use the word world, we'll just stick with schools of philosophy out there, classical things, were people who were deeply meditative, okay? They meditated deeply. They read, they pondered, they prayed, they're contemplating. You use your mind. I've said this many times. You are to read, you are to think deeply, you are to allow you're supposed to fill your mind with enough information so that the Holy Spirit can, it's that cross-reference and check, and you can have dialogues. You can say, okay, now, I see this, they're saying it here. Are they saying the same thing here? What is going? You can have an intelligent dialogue with Yahweh. I mean, come on, people. We're to grow up into Christ, okay? The need for the meditator to retain his attention, his sound mind, the ability to think. This is the biggest problem in Christendom today. We do not know how to think critically. You do not need to be afraid of anything in front of you. You just need to be able to think critically. You need to be able to, and this is our problem today in our education. We do not anymore have a classical education. We have no idea what the ancients were all about. We are about it. So we just kind of make stuff up as we go and make up stuff about which is Okay? Meditation, its purpose is to strengthen one's understanding of the words of God and to make one's soul more susceptible to their potentially transformative power. Okay? So in prayer and in meditation, the whole point is you are allowing yourself, your body, your soul, and the spirit to come into contact with the pure essence, the pure water of life, the pure logos of God, and to receive of its true transformative power. This is why it says, having a form of godliness but devoid of power. Ritual is the biggest enemy of God. And that's what he was constantly, Yeshua, when he was here, he was constantly after them because they loved their rituals. They didn't want to go any deeper. He would try to explain to them their codified esoteric traditions where Moses, they actually, the actual origination and concept behind the ritual, if that you understood, you could at least do it in its pure form. And it wasn't just a mindless ritual. But that had even gone by the wayside for hundreds of years by the time Yahweh was talking to them, okay? So I really did want to say all that because it's extremely important for people now to understand, because the point is, I was just talking to my producer. It's too late in the game here, people. It doesn't matter who gets in office. I mean, Trump, listen, we are way late in the game. Doesn't matter. It isn't about Republican versus Democrat. Nothing's going to solve our problems. We have really and truly pissed Yahweh Elohim off. We are in a very tenuous place with the Most High God, all right? So, we need to start getting a grip and beginning to slow it down and to begin to think and ponder and say, okay, and to get back to square one. Okay, because we have really messed this thing up. We are so far away today from our roots as, the New Jerusalem. Even our ancestors, and I've taught on this and done a lot of study. The early, because I'm so tired of this. Let me just say this one thing. The wheat and the tares, that's the parable. That represents two seed lines that are intermingled always in the earth. The Canaanites and the Adamites, okay, and I won't even go into that anymore. You search it out. One is a holy bloodline, one is not, and they're always kind of, living together. But the point is, and it's always a question, history is always, one group is up with more power, one group is down. And this is the story of history. We've gotten ourselves backed into a corner today where the wicked are calling the shots. These 1%ers, even Bernie Sanders, the 1%ers, okay? They've always been around, but they've gotten themselves back into a very slick position of calling the shots. And that's a very dangerous place to be. And you're there a lot of times because you have forsaken the Lord your God, all right? Now, I want to just totally move into another whole thing here because this is kind of what I am trying to prepare myself. I don't, okay, God, explain this to me. What am I reading? And in a much more serious note, we are at the end of an age, at the end of a age. There are many ages in God. If you really understand the deeper understandings in the Word, we're coming to the end of the age, and it's going to be a very tumultuous, change-filled time. And the scriptures are very clear that if you're not prepared, if you're not ready, if you're not strong in the faith, chances are it's going to blow you right out of the water, okay? And so all I can say is it behooves you to begin to get wisdom, as I always said, wisdom and knowledge, okay? The house that's built on wisdom and knowledge, even if we just take your earthly, if your house, if your tabernacle is built on the wisdom and knowledge that is in the Word of God, and I'm not talking about a kindergarten level understanding, okay, because the tsunami that's coming is way bigger, and unless your house is built upon the rock, okay, it's going to get blown over. So, all that being said. So listen, I was starting to talk about the gods, all right? Now, this is, I came across this guy. Another friend of mine turned me on to this guy, and I can't begin to say his name. I'll just spell it. Iamblichus. Lambilchus, okay? He was a 3rd century Syrian, highly, what would I call him? I mean, educated and, you know, because see, we don't understand this thing today. We just, oh gosh, how do I even explain it? I mean, a Kabbalist. I mean, someone who truly understands the deep mysteries, okay? And in this tradition, even it's known Pythagoras, which I had here, Pythagoras, okay, great mathematician. Everybody knows the name of Pythagoras, right? He got his information. He was a student. He studied under. And there's a whole portion of the Greeks that did this under the Hebraic, Kabbalistic prophets and sages. And this is a huge, I've done a lot of teaching on this. This is a whole line that goes through Adam, you know, and Enoch and Shem and, you know, to Elijah, you know, down through to David and, you know, so this is, but here he gets a lot of, so that's why in Neoplatonism, a lot of times when you read classical literature, you can see that there's so many similarities of concepts. They use different words, but that's what we have to get to. That's, when we had the Tower of Babel situation, God really deliberately changed the languages. He made it much harder to communicate on a broad, much harder to communicate. It took a lot more work because I think he just, you know, it was just damage control. He was just so done with these wicked that just, you know, and another gang up on God kind of thing. You know, it's just never going to work. So anyways, he writes this book on Egyptian mysteries. Now, what we have to understand about Egyptians in all cultures, this is the thing. The wheat and the tares are always growing together. So you have to begin to ferret out who's wicked and who's not, okay? Listen, it's not that hard. Jesus said you will know a tree by its fruit, okay? A good tree bears good fruit, a bad tree bears bad fruit, okay? The concept is really kind of simple. In parabolic, so in other words, your fruit is the end result of your actions, okay? So let me put it this way. So if you plant a seed in the ground and then all of a sudden this little thing comes up and it turns into this huge tree, it's got this huge trunk and it starts having these massive branches and then these leaves come out and then these little buds come out and then finally this little fruit comes out and lo and behold, this thing is just, you know, amazing. The fruit is the final end game, the final result. But all the processes that went into producing that fruit, that is something the ancients were extremely smart about and understood. We think we've just discovered this whole idea of matter and forces and the subatomic world. No, there's nothing new under the sun. They were extremely cognizant of this whole thing, and they were much more up to speed and understanding the processes that would go into this thing. So you will know a tree by its fruit. In other words, so if the processes, if the programs I've talked about this, if your soul life, your inner man life is full of light, okay, this is the whole point. If you are, it says, if you are one of these who maintains justice and does what is right, if you are someone who keeps his hand from doing evil, you know, if you are full of light, your fruit, your actions will show that. You're an open book. This is the whole point. Whereas a hypocrite, you know, this is the whole point. You have to go a little deeper, and this is why you examine it, because sometimes you have to go a little bit deeper. And this is why sometimes you really need to examine or know someone. This was the whole idea of early church leadership, and this has always been the idea. You really need to know those who labor among you. Because, you know, just, and this is why, and this is the whole point too with images, and I'm going to get into this, like TV or even, you know, electing your presidents on TV imaging is so unsound because you have no way of knowing, okay? Let me just throw this in here, and this is why because this has gotten really perverted. We always say that, oh, what a man does doesn't matter. His character doesn't matter. Your character, is another way of saying it. Your character, the programs that are running inside of you are what, it always says a man's destiny, a man's character is his destiny. So in other words, if you're just a really wicked, evil person, you're going to have wicked, evil actions, okay? And conversely. But the fruit thing, in the way we set up our government, the whole point was they understood this because, see, one thing we got to understand something. We go to Europe today, people go and they look at all this beautiful art and these really cool castles. You have no idea, people, how absolutely despotic most of Europe was for most of its centuries. There were few little pockets of light, but for the most part, life under the kings was not really ever very pretty, especially if you were on the other side or if you were ever found yourself opposed to the kings. We were so blessed to be able to set up a representational form of government here where we don't have a king. We are the government by the people for the people, all right? You just don't know what a gift that gave us and how we are so losing it today. But this is why in the early times, the laws on the books, why it was so important for your governmental people, your town councils and in your, on your school boards and a lot, had to be people of integrity. And you had to know their fruit because these are the people that are going to make decisions for you. We have so decompartmentalized ourselves from the concept that what programs people have running inside them that produces their fruit has nothing to do with the decisions they're going to make that's going to affect me and my kids. Nothing could be further from the truth. And that was not the way our government was set up, all right? And, it behooves people to really try to get back to this concept that you to know those. And this is not a witch hunt or judgmental. That has nothing to do with the point. The point is that you just, if you want to live in a peaceable kingdom, you better be sure that you're either ruled or giving your authority to people who also want to live in a peaceable kingdom by rules and by righteousness and Yahweh's laws or principles. Otherwise, the tears, it's not going to be pretty. Anyways, all right, I got to move on. I just can't. What I'm trying to say here. Okay, so he has this book out. This is from the 3rd century Syrian. I am US, whatever. I'm so sorry that my pronunciations are bad. Anyways, he starts out here, the gods and their peculiarities. In the first place, therefore, it is taken for granted that there are gods. Okay, now this is something that's really being discussed all over on YouTube, and different people are writing different things about this, and this is really important to understand. What in the world, where did we lose it? Where did we get so divorced from our early history and every culture of the world, every culture, people, understanding the different hierarchies and let me see if I can find some words, realms and hierarchies, did I say that are out there. And we all think that it's just, I don't know what, we're just totally Epicurean, eat and drink and tomorrow you die and whatever, doesn't matter. No, the ancients were completely, and to some extent, obsessed by the soul and the afterlife and the fact that this is not all there is by any stretch of the imagination, and they were much more interfacing with these other quote-unquote gods. But what I'm trying to do, ferret out and examine, and okay, what are we talking about? What are we talking about, okay? Because it's not language that is politically correct or used today, all right? So anyways, take for granted there are gods, small g, and this is what I talked about. There are many gods. There are many gods, people, okay? But what is a god? I mean, what are we talking about? And when then you have the Lord God, the Most High God, saying, I am, the God of gods, okay? So what are the peculiarities of the superior races? Now this really, I love when I read something and all of a sudden the light goes, superior, oh, yes, that makes sense now. Because one of the problems with all this understanding, when you have people who really, want to skew it and spin it. And there's a lot of people, we live in an age where everything's coming out in the open, and Satan and his minions are doing everything they can to divert it, skew it, discredit it, whatever, still keep you away from the truth, okay? And a lot of it gets into racism. A lot of it gets into, what have I said before? I had a way of saying this. Elitism. Racism and elitism, when you get into humankind, are 100% not the heart of Yahweh God, okay? Where he said he made his house what we call the house of prayer for all nations, okay? And we're not just talking about the Israeli nation, okay? The superior races, these are talking about different races of created beings, other gods, okay? So they want to tell you that the white race is the supreme race and that the black race is... See, this is the problem, Satan, because we're so stupid, we don't understand. We allow him to use us as his tools to cause bloodshed and harm and hatred in the world amongst brethren, okay? We're all Adamic. Your skin color has nothing to do with any of this stuff, this esoteric knowledge and understanding, okay? So that really clicked in my mind. There are superior races. There are higher gods. There is a hierarchy. This is one of the hardest things to, even in our egalitarian kind of understand, that yes, and I guess we just have to really understand this. It is a gift from God to be able to have a government like we have, by the people and for the people. That's not really always the case. But you better make your laws justly and still one nation under God. So our founding fathers, they knew what they were doing, okay? But this whole concept of superior races is, the Bible talks about the 7 species. It doesn't matter what you call it, a race or a species or another order of created being. What we are talking about is something other than Adamites, okay? And I've been through all this. So, I'm sorry, people, we're not in Kansas. If you're, shocked at what I'm saying and oh, my gosh, you just, you've been playing too much Candy Crush and have not been paying attention, okay? So, anyways, the superior races, because, see, this is really interesting because a lot of the gods, if somebody's listening who is a little farther along, you have the really tall, and they're appearing all over the world. Oh, there's all this stuff going on, people. But they're going to come back. We got to know. You better prepare yourself for what is soon to come upon the face of the whole earth. Oh my gosh. Okay. So anyway, let me just say this sentence again. In the first place, therefore, it should be taken for granted that there are gods. I ask then, what are the peculiarities of the superior races of these gods? By what are they differentiated from each other? Are we supposed, is it a cause of distinction in their energies or their passive motions? It's another thing you have to understand. Forces or matter. Many of these things, these gods are, all right, I'll get to this. Or is it a classification established by differences of bodies? The gods being distinguished by urethral bodies, the demons by aerial bodies, or the souls or bodies of souls. Even Paul, this is the point, Paul talks about this when he says there's different kinds of flesh. And he says there's one flesh, terrestrial flesh, there's celestial flesh. We're really talking about the same thing. You have to listen closely. You have to look at your words and see what's the concept behind this thing. So let me flesh this out, because this is in the hierarchy of all the things. And as you read classical, you understand that air and breath are way up there in the highest orders of things, and then it comes down a little more into the soul matter, okay, and then finally you get here to the boots on the ground, okay? But these classifications are ethereal bodies. Other words would be celestial, an archangel from the highest heavens, unworldly, spiritual, of the air, ether. A lot of times in the ancients they were, creatures of ether. Okay. Now the demons, by contrast, another whole grouping of order of something out there, right? And we know that. The Bible's full of it. Jesus confronted demons all the time, cast them out. A lot of times it is in ethereal bodies existing or growing in the air or the atmosphere. Okay, now these are entities that live in the atmosphere rather than in the ground or in the water. Now, if you understand your four elements, you have air, fire, water, or air, fire, and matter, earth. Or, as another way Paul says, there are things in heaven, things in the high heavens, things on earth, things under the earth, and things in the sea. These are all classical ways of describing the other dimensions, okay? And, we better get up to speed, because a lot of times people, I'm telling you, it's getting repackaged to you, the youth today and the games they play, and it's not always getting repackaged to you in a godly way. They are spell casting, taking on animal spirits. I mean, all the most bizarre pagan things are going on under different guises, and it's destroying a whole generation. It's taken up because we couldn't give them a good answer. We couldn't explain to them what was going on. And this whole new, and Harry Potter comes on the scene, he's talking about all this stuff, and it's like fantasy. No, it's not fantasy, people. I'm sorry. Okay, we've got to get up to speed. But, okay, rather than the ground and water, and souls are bodies. Okay, we have a soul. We're a body, soul, and spirit. Our body, unfortunately, that's what happened to us when our fall. We got trapped down here, like under the table, not in the lowest form of dense matter. We can't fly. We can't get out of here. The only way out of here is to die. Okay? But if you read your Bible, other entities, they can come and go. Jesus went up to the highest heaven, and he went down to Sheol. I mean, he was like all over the place in the dimensions, okay? So, but one of the best ways today to understand demons, and this is a really important thing we need to understand, is it's a psychic power, okay, versus a celestial power. Okay, now I'm going to get through some of this stuff. Suppose then we say that certain individuals affirm that the gods are pure mental essences and that the demons are psychic beings participating of the mind. One of the things Freud did, and see, this is another little trick of the devil. We were getting close to some of this stuff. A lot of this stuff was coming out again, but he just sort of took it, he repackaged it. Freud, in his whole concept, the soul, there are many levels to the soul, and you can operate on a total animalistic soul level. You can enlarge your soul to be, communing with the soul of God in the sense of you can be totally pure and free and full of light, okay, or full of darkness, okay. These are real physics to these things. We can't just keep thinking this is all a mind game and none of this has really got any real boots on the ground or real. No, there really are real entities with real properties that do real things, that are in obedience to Yahweh and doing things, or they're working for the dark side, okay, just like people do, okay? And if you're caught in it, I'm telling you right now, this is why I try to start with prayer. It's as close, you can go in with your Father and close the door. And nothing is more powerful than the name of Yahweh and the blood of Yeshua. You just go to your Father and say, God, I am in deep doo-doo. I've opened some doors. I don't know what's going on in my life. You go to the Father. He will get you out of it. You pursue what is good and true, and when you humble yourself, you say, I got myself in a real mess because these are stronger than you. This is the whole point with the strong man. He comes in. These entities, man, once they get a grip of you, it's gonna take a higher power to get you free. But praise the Lord. That's what Yeshua did. He totally was able to have dominion from the lowest depths of Sheol up to the highest heaven. There is no place that you can be that he cannot free you and set you upon a rock. Oh my gosh, this stuff is so real and powerful. Okay, now, who is a disciple? There's one guy here who was a disciple of Plato. He taught himself these doctrines. He considered the heavens as divine, and the substance of the divine nature was pure mind and absolute. And this is one of the things of Kabbalah, that God he's spirit. He is pure essence. He is like, they call him Pythagoras called him the monad, gave him the name of the monad as God. He is the ultimate reality, thought, okay, which is way more powerful than the thing that is made, okay? But he described the stars as visible divinities. See, this is something we really need to get up to speed on, because the watcher angels, these quote-unquote aliens, that we've got to understand what's going on. These are not aliens or higher life forms that seeded us and they're coming back to help us and all this kind of crap. Many of these entities that people are interfacing with today, these ascended masters, are fallen angels. They are fallen, and they're not only the fallen angels, which is a category, they're demonic entities, they're psychic entities. That's why these psychic, when people see visions and they, and they see these grotesque things, these are real psychic images, these things, and they're parasites, and they will play with your mind. Okay, I can only skim through some of this stuff. But what I want you to get to this point, he also described the stars as visible divinities. Okay, this is something we need to understand. When it uses the sun, the moon, and the stars, these are actually gods that he created on the fourth day. He put them in a visible firmament, and he gave them jobs. And he said, you're to do this. And if you read Enoch and the heavenly luminaries, Enoch was the first, one of the greatest prophet sages, that ever lived, and he got it all, and he wrote it down. That's why in the ancients, I can't go into this whole thing. I have a YouTube on Enoch you should really listen to. Give you a lot of information about him. No one strode the Apocrypha like Enoch. He was the colossus of all this understanding. But anyways, so there are literally gods, the sun, the moon, and the stars, and this is really deep, and this is why it gets into the whole point. A lot of these are runaway entities at this point, and this is the whole point with Israel, that many of us, we are going to replace the sun, the moon, and the stars, when he's going to roll up the heavens like a scroll, and just kind of get rid of them. He's just going to wipe the slate clean. All these entities that are in total disobedience and have done things and have made themselves to be, they have masqueraded as the gods much more down here and taken whole nations and whole people groups and whole things to the side. He's just going to wipe the slate clean, and we, lo and behold, we're going to shine like lights in the firmament. This is not some little fairy tale, oh, isn't this a nice story thing? This is literal, okay? So if you want to, because you're either going to go down, 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 your energies, wherever you are, when the roll is called up yonder for you, your energies, and I use that in the sense of what programs are running in you, okay, it's the best way I can describe it today, is, if you're full of darkness, that dark, it just weighs you down, 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 no impure or unclean thing can get up into the higher heavens. But if you can keep yourself, pure before the Lord and run the race, as Paul says, I finished my course, you're destined to be one of these, the new luminaries, okay, so anyways, let me keep moving here. But the demons were depicted as of a psychic nature, okay, and this is the problem if you read Jubilees. There had been so much intermingling of species. This is the problem. These are the viruses. This is where evil comes from. This is the whole problem. In the Genesis record testifies that after everything was made, these things, everything was good. It was great. It was just the way he wanted it. And he said everything is to reproduce and multiply after its kind. Well, that just didn't always happen, okay? I'm going to give you this quick little, and that's the whole story of the flood. This is from the flood Apocrypha. This is from a Dead Sea Scrolls fragment, 4Q370, and that's a whole quote of what it says about the flood. And the windows of heaven emptied out, rain, and he destroyed them by the flood. Therefore, everything perished on the dry land, right? Men, beasts, birds, and winged creatures died. Okay, and the giants did not escape either. Okay, so there was, this is truth, people. There were giants in the earth in those days. This is a whole problem, people, that were between angelic watcher angels and human women, creating a demigod, half human and half angelic order, race of giants. And they were wicked, okay? This is the story. You think, the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. You think it's a little fairy tale. Oh my gosh, people. All right, this is my point. So in Jubilees, it talks about after the flood, and he physically removed these things from the earth, all these wicked re-engineered, bioengineered, genetically engineered. Unfortunately, a lot of the psychic energies and powers and soul lives and programs of these things were still in the atmosphere. And they were, and it's a great verse in Jubilees, and Noah's like freaking out because he sees that these things are still dogging his kids and their offspring. They're not totally out of the woods yet. And again, okay, and so he petitions, he said, God, this isn't fun. There's no level playing field here. I can't have my kids living righteously before you and, try to, start this thing all over again with a clean slate if they're constantly being dogged by these entities. And God, basically hears him and says, all right, okay, fine, I'm going to lock away almost like 90% of them and leave just 10%. And we're only dealing with the 10%. It's crazy. But they are multiplying in psychic power. Okay, but all right, now, demons are depicted of a psychic nature, subordinate to that of the gods. They're lower on the totem pole, and therefore subject to emotion and perversion. Yeah, that's the story, like human beings. But at the same time, sharing in a degree in the power and the intelligence of the gods. So it's a very interesting scenario, and ancient literature in the mystery schools on both sides, esoteric understanding, have a lot to say on that whole category and those entities. Now, I want to say this in 5 minutes. So are gods then separate from demons by the distinction of bodied and unbodied? If, however, only the gods are incorporeal, and incorporeal means you're not in a physical body, okay? How shall the sun, the moon, and the visible luminaries in the sky be accounted as gods? What is the bond of union that connects the divinities in the sky that have bodies with the gods that are unbodied? Because there are two. This, if you read Paul carefully, there's not only celestial flesh, terrestrial flesh, then there's the flesh of, and I wish I had the verse in front of me. And I saw that he makes distinctions here, okay? Because some of them, this gets into the whole idea of the garments and the coverings and all this stuff. But I have to say this because what we have to understand now is that this is the world that we have to begin to wrap our minds around. And if you don't think that Moses did, this is all over Moses when he's telling the people that this people will rise and play the harlot with the strange gods of the land. Okay? Now, this is where I think I'm finally going to get to next week, and I've been trying to get up to this point of what is an idol? What was going on? What were they doing? What was this whole making of idols, abominations? Let me see this. Abominations to the Lord. Okay? And that they sacrificed to demons who were not gods, to whom they have not known. And, okay. But demons, see, this is the whole thing of what an idol is. It's one of these words that has so changed, so that you have to dig deep in order to begin to really understand what was going on. And I think I finally really do. But it comes from a word, nyack. It's properly a pouring over. What you usually get, it's a covering. It's a pouring over. A fusion of metal, gold, silver, brass, or iron. By implication, a libation, a league, a covenant. You can sometimes, it's a veil, it's a coverlet. But what it really is, okay? Oh, here it is. Deuteronomy 27:15, curses the man who makes an idol or a molten image, an abomination to the Lord, the work of the hands of the craftsman, and sets it up in secret. Okay, this is the thing, because it's going on today. It's never gone away. But this is the point. What it really is, it's a secret satanic pact. What it's really talking about in the pouring, in the libation, because see, a lot of these things are done when you do this, entering into a pact with other, there's a ritual. Like going back to the mantra. Remember I told you about this whole idea of the mantras, and that a combination of, believed to be a spell or weapon of supernatural power, okay? This whole concept of a libation is a ritual, a pouring of liquid as an offering to a god to God, a God or spirit, or in memory of those who have passed on. It's a ritual, a covenant with evil. It says it's poured out. This is why you get in the whole thing of shedding men's blood, the pouring out. And satanic, there's such a gross ritual, the ultimate of human sacrifice and pouring out blood. You are making pacts with very wicked, fallen entities, and you just need to knock it off. I mean, this is the whole point. So what I'm trying to say is, it's not making a little statue. We kind of totally made it this thing that they were just crafts that we're making out of wood or stone, these little idols, little 10-inch things. No, I mean, that was probably the most watered down, finally, you could carry your little idol with you in your pocket kind of thing. No. What we are talking about in the making of an idol is entering into a secret satanic pact, a web of deceit, which means a covering. And this is the idea. And there's rituals to cover this, and you think you do it in secret, but the Lord sees. Okay? So on that note, I just want to say, God have mercy on all of us. All right? Because we are in very dark times. The Luciferians are pretty much running the show again. But I have no fear, because I know who my Yahweh God is. I serve the Most High God. I can go to my house. I can enter in to a quiet place. This will be hidden in God, in Christ, okay? Nothing in all heaven and earth can get through the ranks that the Lord has surrounded me or his saints with. People, we have nothing to fear, but we do need to expose evil. We need to educate people today. It's a very serious situation. America, I cannot believe that this is the country I live in, which was once a New Jerusalem. We have a lot to repent of. This is the whole point. Put on sackcloth and ashes. Every person should really be on their knees in their house of prayer with the Lord in whatever capacity, saying, okay, God. Okay? Because we have really pissed off Yahweh Elohim. So on that note, I'm going to end. Hey, have a great evening. And I hope you check out this show again on YouTube or some of my other videos on the channel. God bless you in Yahweh's name. In the Yahushua HaMashiach's name.